If you've spent the last few years in what felt like psychological freefall, burning through old identities, sitting in darkness you thought would never end, questioning everything you once believed about yourself, Carl Jung borrowed it from medieval alchemy, and he considered it the rarest achievement in all of human psychological development. He called it rubedo, the reddening, the final stage of inner transformation, because so few people make it this far. Jung was fascinated by alchemy, because he recognized that alchemists had stumbled onto a symbolic map of psychological transformation centuries before modern psychology existed. They described a process with distinct stages, each with its own color, its own character, its own specific challenges, observing in his patients who were undergoing genuine individuation, the slow, often agonizing process of becoming whole. Why it looks and feels so different from what the spiritual marketplace has taught you to expect from awakening. Jung mapped the alchemical stages onto psychological development. The first stage is Nigredo, the blackening. This is the part of transformation that feels like death, your old identity, your comfortable illusions, the story you told yourself about who you are and what your life means. Nigredo is what happens when that story collapses and you're left standing in the wreckage without a replacement. It's depression that doesn't respond to positive thinking. It's the dark night of the soul that spiritual teachers reference but rarely describe honestly. It's the period where everything you built your sense of self on, relationships, beliefs, roles, achievements, starts revealing itself as incomplete. The old structure has to dissolve before anything authentic can emerge. You can't build something real on a foundation of personas and borrowed identities, rather than forcing one to win and the other to disappear. In rubedo, this capacity becomes natural. You stop needing everything to make sense in a single framework. People who haven't been through this process often find this disorienting. They want you to pick a side. Were your parents good or bad? Was your past relationship healthy or toxic? Are you doing well or struggling? And you find yourself saying both and meaning it. The fourth sign is a shift in how you relate to solitude, as your old world has collapsed and you don't fit anywhere. In albedo, solitude becomes intentional. You choose it because you need space to do the work, to sort through the debris, to rebuild without external interference. In rubedo, solitude just becomes part of the texture of your life. You're not retreating from anything. You're not protecting yourself from the world's energy. You're simply someone who requires substantial time alone, and you've stopped apologizing for it or treating it as a phase you'll eventually outgrow. The alone time isn't heavy anymore. It has a quality of spaciousness, of genuine enjoyment. The eighth sign involves how you handle other people's projections onto you. Before rubedo, other people's opinions and perceptions tend to land with force. If someone misreads you, it stings. If someone projects their shadow onto you, calling you selfish when you set a boundary, calling you cold when you maintain distance, it can destabilize you for days. In rubedo, projections start sliding off you with an ease that can be almost disorienting at first. Your sense of who you are has become so internally anchored that external misperception simply doesn't register as a threat. And because the ego is no longer inflated and fragile, it doesn't need constant external validation to maintain itself. You know who you are, you know where you've been, you know what you carry, and someone else's inability to see that clearly doesn't change any of it. This makes you remarkably easy to be around for people who are secure, and remarkably unsettling for people who aren't. The ninth sign of rubedo is a changed relationship with mortality. Jung understood it as the natural consequence of integration. When you're no longer at war with parts of yourself, when you're no longer splitting your energy between performance and truth, when you're no longer defending against your own shadow, all that energy becomes available, and it expresses itself as a kind of aliveness that other people can feel. This is fundamentally different from charisma, which Jung understood as an ego function. Charismatic people draw you in through performance. People in rubedo draw you in through presence. Rubedo can be lonely. Not in the devastating way that Nigredo is lonely, where you feel cut off from the world and abandoned by reality itself. Rubedo is not a permanent state of bliss. The spiritual marketplace loves to sell final stages as if they're arrivals, destination points where the work is done and you get to coast forever, that suffering is permanent. In rubedo, difficulty is just difficulty. It comes and it goes. The alchemists describe the culmination of rubedo as the creation of the philosopher's stone, the substance that transforms everything it touches. Jung read this psychologically as the self, fully realized, the personality that has integrated its shadow, its anima or animus, its complexes, its wounds, and emerged as something genuinely whole. Most transformed people don't look transformed. They look ordinary. They live ordinary lives.